activist based in Frankfurt Oder with the presentation Construction of Reality as an Applied Method. We got to know each other 1 year ago. With us is also Constanza, so it's kind of big team of people who know each other and had the chance to interact and meet in the real context of the city of Oder and Schlubice, of Frankfurt and Schlubice. And we will probably hear more today about this, the context of the cities of Frankfurt and Schlubice, and that is directly related to the topic of our research and interest here in Chisinau, which is periphery. The topic of periphery understood from cultural, urban, but also political perspective. And I believe the examples that we will see tonight and hear about will enrich our understanding of different dimensions that periphery can take, but also how can we play with periphery or a border zone. And in this concrete case, we speak of a city split by a border in two parts between Germany and Poland. So how to play with this kind of situation using artistic means. So I will stop here and let you, Michael, introduce your context and present us the way you work. And of course, we would be happy to hear more about yourself as well as an artist and cultural activist. Thank you, and thank you for joining us and accepting the invitation, and wishing everyone a nice evening.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting me. Normally I was meant to come physically, which did not work out because of Corona. But for me, it was very interesting to follow your idea. Hi, Stefan. To follow your idea to work with this old stadium in the center of Chisinau. I was watching today the walk which you did and the explanations that Constanta was doing afterwards, a little bit about the history. And yes, for me, this is especially interesting because I am working, or I like to work in very local contexts. My work is very much linked to the to problems which I find locally. So I was very interested to come to Chisinau, and I'm a little bit sad I couldn't do it. But hopefully, in the coming time, when Corona is leaving us, we will find a possibility. And I'm very curious about this stadium, which inside has a lot of potential. And maybe my following lecture will inspire you, hopefully. I am explaining you now a little bit about my method, which I developed throughout lots of years. Maybe to my person still, I grew up in Bonn, which is the western part of Germany. And in 1990, I moved, I'm artist, I studied arts, painting. And in 1990, I moved to Poznań, to Poland, where I lived 8 years. My children are, have both nationalities, German and Polish. And yet I feel in between, and still more my children feel more in between, and have problems to link with the idea of national state. I have been living in France too for 3 years. So I see myself as somebody in between, and I was working a lot about the question of identity. What is an identity? When I moved in 1998, after 8 years being in Poland, to Frankfurt-Słubice, I saw, for me personally, individually, and as an artist, that this is a fantastic space, because here I can change the language within 5 minutes, and I myself feel kind of home on both sides of the Oder River. I can switch the language, and so since 21 years I live here. And then I started to develop this idea of construction of reality as an applied method. You know, there are lots of philosophical or social ideas of construction of reality, philosophers who were discussing about it. How does a reality come into being? And maybe my first point of view I'm starting with is to say that there is not one reality. There is a kind of reality which seems to be an agreement to everybody, but also everybody understands something different under this agreement. We could talk about our identity as a woman, as a man, as a children, as a profession. If I would be a farmer, for example, there are so many different identities or roles that we could take that kind of form us. This is very complex. So I start with saying each of us has its own reality, and there are so many realities that are involved now, for example, that people are involved now into this meeting. So knowing that reality is an agreement, and it only comes really into being when there is a certain bunch of people that believe that this reality exists, then I also can start creating other realities and try to convince others to take part in this new kind of reality that I am proposing. Yeah, but I don't know how this works. Can you see my presentation, by the way? Can you see this picture? Nothing? Oh, wait. So this should be... Can you see it now? Can you see it? No. Why doesn't it work?
If it's a QR code, then I can see it.
Michael, we can see a QR code.
And the text underneath?
The title of your presentation, if this is the if this is the image. But also there is Ioana in the waiting room. Could you please let her in? Thank you.
I cannot. There are two people even in the waiting room. Okay, sorry, I didn't see.
No worries.
Okay, so anyway, I'm just starting. I hope now all of you can see this QR code with the title under it. Can you?
Yes.
Okay. So now I still must find it. Okay. Yes, well, this was this picture. I'm a painter. I studied painting, so here you can see some of my paintings, my QR code paintings, and underneath you to make it easier for you, you can see the meaning behind. If you would use a QR code reader, you could read it that way. One personal thing that, because we are changing throughout our lives, we have not one stable identity. So our reality is also something which is all the time in process. And but on the other hand, we like to have a construction to feel good, to feel safe. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, okay. I was not sure. So every morning, let's say we get up, we look into our mirror and into the mirror, and then we would like to see somebody that we like. So one point of the creation of reality is that we want to create a reality that we like, that we can feel good and say, yeah, I'm fine. And as long as we feel fine, I think we will not change too much our reality because we feel good in it, inside of it. So that is why here I say the outline of a new reality is based on the experience of failure, of a crisis. So crisis seems to be something very important to be able to change and to create new realities. So there is a kind of process between safety, between feeling good and safe, and between changement. And it seems that we need often a kind of crisis that forces us to change. So I will give you now 3 examples to make this more clear, which are linked to certain contexts. And I will not give you all informations from the beginning on, because new realities needs to have people who believe in it. Yeah. So I try to make you believe now my realities. So the first reality I want to talk about is the white zone. The white zone is the first area worldwide that doesn't exist anymore. It has been cut out of all maps, as you can see. You cannot enter it because inside there is nothing. And who knows what happens if you get into nothing. So it is very dangerous to get into nothing. But I produced a tourist guide for tourists so that in 7 days they can walk around nothing. They can think about nothing, they can reflect nothing. And it is very easy to follow it, because if you follow these white signs there, then you will get safe around nothing. So this area of nothing is about 60 square kilometers in size. It takes around, well, it depends how quickly you go around, but you should use 7 days to walk around, because if you want to think about nothing, that needs some time. And here you can see, if you follow these white signs, then you get safely around nothing, but here you can see the first problem. Do you know if you are outside or inside of nothing? Because as you can see on both sides of the signs, the area looks kind of the same. So this is kind of tricky. And there are some points. This is the most dangerous thing that is happening at the edge of the white zone, is the sudden appearance of parallel realities. So if you get to this point, for example, and half of our group is going into the one reality and the other half to the other reality, then you might never meet again. So it is very important for for us that we sit down together first to find a consensus about which is the reality, and then if we all together go into one reality, then everything will be fine. Yeah. So pay attention when you go to the white zone on these places. But of course, the best way to get safely around nothing is to book me as a kind of guide around nothing. Here you can see I guide a group of tourists. It may help to wear those security vests that if you enter into nothing, that we still can kind of catch you and take you out of nothing. And here you can see I guide a tour of people around nothing. Oops. Yes, and very interesting is when you saw this map, around this map, there are several small villages. One of them is called Sempo. And the people of the village, because they're living only 1 kilometer away from the white zone, they all the time fear that the white zone could enlarge, and then they would, their village would disappear because it would enter nothing. Yeah. So we convinced the people of the village to create together with us the so-called IWF, Institut für Weiße Zone Forschung, Institute for White Zone Research. It is the first institute that is researching nothing. Yeah, and here you can see the first team of the institute. This was the day we were opening this institute. You see Pavlov's dog is there too. Here you can see the logo. In German language, people often think, if they hear IWF, they think about the International World Fund. Yeah, in a way, you could find some analogies. Yeah, but this is not the International Welfare Fund. This is the Institute for White Zone Research. Of course, inside the institute, we have got a library with all kind of literature about nothing. There you can sit down and read about nothing, think about nothing, discuss about nothing. Just a moment, I forgot to switch off my, yeah, okay. And the first book we got was from Kurt Tucholsky, a German writer, Die soziologische Psychologie der Löcher, the sociological psychology of holes, because you know the hole is very familiar with nothing. Yeah, there's also white zone poetry. I will not read you now all the different poetries. You have to build some lyrics around nothing, of course. Yeah, this is a very short introductory to nothing. Maybe in between you have got some questions about nothing. If there are no questions, then I will just continue.
Are the QR codes, like, do they send you somewhere, or is actually still nothing? Or this was not a discussion, or you said this at the beginning and I wasn't here.
Yeah, well, I'm artist, so this is one of my artworks, and
yeah.
I like to work in long-term processes. Only the white zone, I'm not living near the white zone, so I could not continue this project during the following 20 years. But I think this project could be something interesting for the stadium, because inside the stadium there is nothing. Well, there is something, but could be seen as nothing. In fact, this project is about the so-called Bombodrome, which is a former military area north between Berlin and Hamburg. And after the Cold War, the Soviet army left this area. They were using it after Second World War until the end of the Cold War as an area where they made, where they were testing bombs. They were flying from Rostock with fighters, and then they were dropping their bombs in this area to test how precisely they work and so on. They had some failures too when the bombs were hitting houses nearby. And then after the political changements, the Soviet army left this area, and then the German government, they wanted to continue using it as a military area within the NATO, and also for test bombing. But then there was the local community of the villages and little towns around. They had introduced kind of small tourism and so on. And there was a growing movement against it to become again a military area. And this initiative, which was fighting this kind of peace movement, they were inviting artists to make projects and workshops and so on. So I proposed the first workshops with youth, with kids, which were around 16 years old from Germany and Poland. And I proposed them an exhibition around nothing. And because I found this very interesting, that there is an area which is totally cut out of the infrastructure, because we human beings very much like to kind of grab everything and use it. And so my idea was here to say, what about telling that you are not allowed to go inside, because you were not allowed to go inside. There were these white signs around which were writing military area, it is forbidden to enter, and there was a security driving around paying attention, nobody's going inside. So I thought this is a very good idea. If we even could make a fence around or a wall and say, this is nothing and you cannot go inside. And then maybe still there can be some people which escape prison or something. They will enter there and they will suddenly find an area where they can hide away or something. So this was for me a very interesting idea to say, okay, let's say that that this is a very strong area, touristically very interesting, because you cannot go inside, you have to walk around, and your imagination can flow because you are not allowed to enter it. So this was the point, the starting point. I did this, and I also really guided tourists around it. And the security was always with us, so they paid attention that nobody got lost inside the white zone. Yeah, and then we made some kind of exercises, for example, declaiming an into the white zone, or some people from the region, they said that they secretly crossed the white zone and they discovered very weird appearances, for example, that they go into the zone in the afternoon to go to the other side to another village. And when they come out the same day, but in the morning. So the time is kind of shifting. And then we found out that if you walk backwards, then maybe the time is getting back into the right place. So the people from the region, they started themselves to developing a kind of fantasy ideas about this white zone, and it really kind of developed fantasy and creative ideas.
That's great. I think I don't know if you see yourself actually as a, but I think this was very protest to me as you talk about it in a way. Maybe it was not the intention, but I don't know. I liked it. Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. In fact, the peace movement, some of them, they were not very happy about it, because their idea was afterwards that it becomes an area where economy will flourish and so on. And I proposed something that they would never think about, that we say that this should be cut out of our mind. But I was relating to the different contexts in which I was working, because one thing was that in reality, in all maps that I could find, there was no really concrete definition of these borders, because military does not like to show everybody where the area begins and where it finishes. So I did the first kind of tourist map for this area, walking around and measuring the distances and so on and so on. And I printed really a book. I printed a tourist guide. I can, maybe I can quickly go and show it if I find it so quickly.
Yeah, it would be great.
Michael.
It's from the white zone.
Could you please let Clara in? She is behind the door.
Okay, sorry. The white door, the white zone is not to enter. So here is the white zone tourist guide, yeah, and you have different descriptions of the path you should take so that you really can use it. And then you have photos from the area. And I made interviews with the local people, and there was one rule only: they were not allowed to speak about the military area. They had to speak about the white zone. And here is the map of the white zone in the printed version. I don't know if you can see this in the small windows.
Yes.
Yeah. So that you can really walk around and use it. Only you get even lost like this, because on one side of this map there is only white. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, I will continue, because this was just an introduction, which I thought when I saw the stadium, which I thought this can be also inspiring for the question of the stadium and of this area inside. Because when I saw all these trees and bushes, that we have an area there which is not used at all. So if we suddenly can enter it, everybody, then it will very quickly lose its mystery in a way. But this is only one aspect that we can later during the workshop maybe talk about. Yeah. So now I will not start historically. I will start from the bigger space to the smaller space. So we enter a new, let's say, country, which is in between. This country is called Nova America, a land in between. And it has been growing along the whole Polish-German border area. So it describes this area here. And you can see it twice, because all maps that I produce, they are orientated not to North Pole and South Pole, but to East Pole and West Pole. Because I think the geographers, they made a big mistake. The maps are always a construction of reality. So I decided to use it differently. So here you can see the map the upper map. This is the map that you look at when you come, for example, from moment, I have to look myself. When you come from Poznań, from the province of Poznań to Nova America, and then you want, for example, to continue into the province of Berlin. So the upper map is, let's say, the Polish view on our area, and the other map is the other way around. Yeah, because if you are conscious about maps, then maps often, they are used also to define power. You can see that, for example, everybody knows yet that Africa, the continent, is much bigger in reality than we see it on the map. And this is because of the form of the maps that we use, that we make. And then Africa seems to be nothing worse because so small and so on, but in fact it is huge. Yeah. So I propose this kind of map directed from East Pole to West Pole, or otherwise, the other way around. And the border, or Nova America, is defined by its spine. Like we also have a spine, and then it is enlarging direction East Pole and West Pole, depending on how many people believe that they are in Nova America, that they are Nova Americans. So also, let's say Chisinau could become a province of Nova America, because Nova America is a state of mind. And now I can explain you something quite interesting about why did I choose the name Nova America. What you see here now, this is the area where the Warte River is entering into the Oder River. It is on the left side, you could enter the Oder River, and this area, there were just muds. And in the 18th century, Frederick the Great, he was drying out these muds, and he was explained to the farmers who wanted to emigrate to the United States, you stay here, here is your new America, Neu Amerika. Here you are pioneers, and here all of you can get a claim. So he really gave ground to these farmers. He was making dikes. I don't know if this kind of little hills near the river, so that
dams, I wanted to say.
Dams, okay. Dam. Yeah, he was creating dams so the water would not flood the area. So this way he gained lots of area which was dried out, and he helped the farmers to build the houses, and during several generations they did not have to pay taxes. And then there were small settlements growing up. And these settlements, as you can see, they got names like Pennsylvania, Hampshire, Florida, Saratoga, Philadelphia, New York, and so on and so on. Are there somebody else wanting to enter? Okay. Yeah, so Frederick the Great, he made a big kind of construction of reality this way, telling the farmers, you should stay here because here you are pioneers, so here you are developing something new. And then he still gave them American names so that they could really feel like being in America. These interesting is that this names, they disappeared. Only the name Malta stayed until today, because after Second World War, I don't know if all of you know, in the conferences of Yalta and Potsdam, the whole borders of Poland were shifted from east to west. So in the eastern part of Poland, which now is in Lithuania, Belarus, and Ukraine, the Polish people had to move out of that area. And in the western side, this area here, for example, was the Germans had to leave the area, and the Polish people from the east, but also from central Poland and from other areas, they were settling this area. And in Warsaw, there was created the so-called Komisja do Spraw Nazewnictwa na Ziemiach Odzyskanych, the commission for the name giving in the areas that they regained. Why regained? Regained because in the 10th century, this area was settled by the Piast dynasty, which was the dynasty which was having the first kingdom of Poland. And they redefined this area again in a new construction of reality with a new narration saying, Yes, finally, after 1,000 years, we got this area back. And so they, in every small town, they here in this area, you find Hotel Piast, Ulica Piast, Restaurant Piast. In Swobice, there's former Kino Piast, Cinema Piast, and so on, to redefine this area as an area which should always have belonged to Poland. And this is a typical thing for any national states, that they need this different kinds of narrations to create a belief for this construction of reality. So for me, playing in a way with this border region, I thought Nowa America, Nowa is the Polish way for saying new, and America we write the German way, so it is a kind of Polish-German language mixture too. Should be the good name for our border region, because anyway, I believe that all European border regions for us here, they are our laboratories for the future, for redefining the areas after the breakdown of the national state, or after the changement into this new construction of reality where the national state is losing its guiding role. Yeah, and of course, first of all, I was repeating this, the strategies of the national state, but not to repeat the same techniques, but to be conscious about them. Yeah. So one thing which is very important for a national state is, of course, a flag. Here you can see the flag of Nowa America, and we made a kind of competition for the best flag. This was Lars Fischer from Eberswalde who developed this flag, and his flag won. So this has become the flag of Nowa America. You can see the colors of the Polish flag inside, of the German flag, and also of the European flag. And then you can see the 4 stars, which refer to our 4 federal states. I switch back a little bit, which you can see here. Szczecin Stan, Terra Incognita, Lebuza Ziemia, and Śląsk. Yeah, because this area is so big that it is difficult to meet so quickly. Behind, of course, there's also this idea of a network of people who are thinking differently about this border region. So it always involves people to participate. It is not just an artistic idea which is visualized, but it is an idea that there is a bunch of people from the whole border region who like this idea and who try to develop different projects or different ideas which are linked, which are linked to this area. Yeah, and of course, one thing that we developed was the hymn of Nowa America. I will not read it now because I think you won't understand it. It is written in a Polish-German language mixture. Or do you all understand Polish and German?
I don't understand none of them.
Okay, so I think it doesn't make sense that I read it right now. But I think most of Polish people and German people both understand it, even if they do not understand the other language.
Do you happen to have the track of it, the soundtrack of the hymn?
Well, the soundtrack is really not so nice yet.
Oh.
I was teaching at the Viadrina University from 2004 to 2018. And was involving sometimes up to 50 students. And this was a group of students who wrote the hymn. And well, then I helped it a little bit to make it bilingual. And they wrote it with the idea that it should be a rap. So what I can do, I can try to rap it if you want to hear it really. But I'm not a musician, so you would have to forgive me for for that it does not sound so really beautiful. Yeah, but I can try. Do you like me to do it?
Yes, I subscribe.
Wait, then wait. Here is the flag. Maybe somehow I can hold this flag here, that you see that this is very official. Yeah. Szczecin, Słupfurt, Zgorzelic, Dzikwalde, Las Forst. To ist nasz Land, zrób es bekannt. Napiszcz es na całym Wand. An der Odera Nysse entlang, ciągniemy an einem Strang. Śpiewamy razem den Gesang. Nowa, nowa, nowa Ameryka. Dla nas dieses Land to wspólnota. Nasza Gemeinschaft jest wunderbar. Zusammen jesteśmy Nowa Ameryka. Międzyhalb płynnymi Grenzen leben. Razem wollen wir do szczęścia streben. Tu chodzi o to zu verstehen, że jest nowy Raum für Ideen. A więc lass uns hier alle stehen. Nowa Ameryka pomaga, żeby wir sehen. Nowa, nowa, nowa Ameryka. Dla nas dieses Land to wspólnota. Nasza Gemeinschaft jest wunderbar. Zusammen jesteśmy Nowa Ameryka. Okay.
Thank you.
So yeah, and I'm still looking for some musicians who would like to make a more, you know, more symbolic music for it. I even found a choir in Muszkowo. They were starting to do something like this, but I'm still waiting for them to go into the studio and to how to say it, to nagrywać, to
record it?
To record it, yeah. Yeah, and of course, that's what I was saying yet. Very important are the people. So first of all, in 2010, we started with Nova America Tours, a bus tour for all interested people, for all interested Nova Americans to discover themselves, to get in contact with each other. And here we are trying to convince 2 young Nova Americans to become Nova Americans in Szczecin, now called Szczecin. Yeah, maybe you don't know, but this commission for the name giving in the new, regained areas, which was created in Warsaw, their work was to rename all the names of German cities there, to give them Polish names. So for example, the city of Grünberg, Green Mountain, was renamed into Zielona Góra. Zielona is green, mountain, Góra is mountain. Yeah, so this is a translation. But other places, they got a new narration. For example, Bärwalde, named after Albrecht dem Bären from the family of the Askans. They took his statue in front of the town hall down, and they placed there Mieszko I, the Piast prince, and then this city was called Mieszkowice. Yeah, so we have a very interesting constructions of reality. There you can see the proof that all national narrations, they are therefore that you believe in it. That was therefore that the people who came there to live now, that they could feel, in fact, this always was ours, even when they moved into a house which before was settled by somebody from Germany. Yeah, even so they did not understand the heritage in which they were moving in. And this has changed after the political changements in 1990. But before it was like that. Yeah, here you can see on this picture the disappearance of the Polish and German border posts under the flag of Nova America. And this is the town hall of Heunaberg, formerly called Heuna, earlier called Königsberg. So we also created our commission for the renaming of the places, of the towns, and we gave them all the towns on both sides of the Polish and German border, a mixture, a hybrid kind of names, Polish German names, like we did yet with Swoopford. Yeah, and of course, Nova America is a network. So, it is important to meet, it is important to discuss. Of course, we developed the Nova America identity card, which you also can get if you like. It is in the internet. You can fill out the form and apply to become a Nova American. Then we have different working groups that meet, and once a year we try to make the Nova America Congress. Everybody who comes to the Congress automatically is a parliamentarian and has got a voice for developing Nova America. Here you see one example of the Nova America Congress. And out of one working group, we developed our own university. You know that history, for example, also is a construction of reality. I guess in Chisinau, you learn a totally different history than you learn in Berlin. And also on the Polish side, you learn a different history than on the German side, because it is always a kind of reflection. Now I look a centralized narration, which is linked to the nation you live in, which is written the history. So that means that I did not find yet a history book which is kind of looking from above, from the meta position on the whole world and trying to write a world's history. There was an approach at the Polish-German border region. I don't know really if it went out well, where professors, historians from the Polish side and the German side tried to write a history book for schools, a new one which takes both positions, the Polish view and the German view on the same history. Yeah. So is history always a kind of narration, so always takes part in constructing reality. Yeah, this is an example of our conferences that we had. We had different projects in which it was also Nova America as the country of migration, because nearly everybody living here was a migrant from east or west entering into this area to live here. Yeah, so far now about Nova America. Of course, I tried to shorten this a lot because Nova America started in 2009, 2010. So Nova America is yet 11 or 12 years old. And it has its ups and downs. That means that at the beginning, we got lots of money from the German Culture Fund, so we could develop it. And then after a certain while, they said, stop, we cannot give you money more than 4 or 5 years, because that would be a kind of institutional funding. So we had suddenly no more money. And without money, you cannot keep alive a network. So it was going down a little bit. And right now we are starting a project where we want to enlarge Nova America through all border regions of Europe. So we will try to contact places, towns which are maybe like Frankfurt, Swobice, situated right beside the border together. And we want to find NGOs, to find people who would like to join Nova America, so to have a much wider network of Nova Americans, which can come also from all over the world, as I said yet. Do you have some questions so far, maybe? No. Okay, I will continue. So now the next point, the next project is maybe still better describing the strategy of reordering space. to reorder a space, you need to redefine it first. And so now I want to show you the procedure of developing Swupford. So normally when I guide people through Swupford, I start my speech with the first sentence saying that Swupford is very young. Swupford has been founded in 1990, and in 2000 it entered the European Register of Towns, and since then it developed very much. And comparing to other cities, it is the first town that is developing from the future into the now. Most towns develop from the history, 2,000-year-olds, 3,000-year-olds. No, Swupford is very young and is developing from the future. The ideas are coming, meeting the situation, and then developing something that you cannot completely foresee. But first, in the first time starting with Swupford, I first tried again to play all these kind of strategies and narrations that create identification with this area. So here with the town. First it was with a kind of country. And one very important thing is of course the coat of arms. Here you see the coat of arms of Swupford, which is a rooster on an egg. Of course, it provokes the most important philosophical question, which is the starting point for everything. Which was first, the rooster or the egg? And so here maybe, again, just to understand, you can see the map which shows how the borders of Poland were shifted after Second World War. You can see Vilnius is now the capital of Lithuania, Brest and Lviv or Lemberg. Yeah? They were Polish towns. And so the border was shifted to the west, and all areas that you see in rows, they, until the end of Second World War, were part of Germany. So the people from East Poland that had to leave their houses, and the people from this East German part also had to leave their houses. So this was the biggest migration project of the 20th century ever, worldwide, I think. I'm not very good in numbers, but I think more than 2 million people had to move. Yeah. And also on the German side, lots of people left their homes. On the now German sides, for example, Frankfurt was declared by Hitler as a fortification, and the Soviet army was approaching, and then the city was evacuated, and there were only around 400 civilians left when the Soviet army came. So, and most of people did not go back. So there was a resettlement of people, very big resettlement, which as long as they linked their identity or their identification with their houses and the land that they owned or the area they lived in, they lost their whole identity in a way. And they lost, they were all the time seeking for feeling home again. And the Polish people which were settling here now, they all the time thought that maybe one day we will go back to Lemberg, to Lviv or Lviv. And, but they wouldn't. Now we have yet almost one, maybe even yet 2 generations of people that are born here in this area that can feel home somehow in this area. So this was one point of a starting point to say, okay, so if you have problems with identification with your identity, so let's create just a new identity that invites you to identify with. And then you can see here a map. I was thinking about how borders are created throughout time, throughout history, or maybe, for example, like in Africa, where borders are made were made totally artificial by the colonizing powers, taking lines and making straight lines through the whole continent and saying that this is now this is us, this is yours, and so on. So I decided to use, I don't know the English word for Mengenlehre, maybe someone knows, but I will describe it, you will understand. You can see 3 circles on this map here. So one circle is defining, trying to say that this is the entity of Poland, symbolizing Poland. The other entity is symbolizing Germany. And there where these 2 entities are touching each other, I used it as a center point for a 3rd circle, which describes a totally new entity of swoopvierters, which can be Polish or German, but they create a new entity called the swoopvierters. And so finally, now they can say, okay, I am now in this new entity, I am a swoopvierter. Like Kennedy said in Berlin, I am a Berliner. Everybody now here can say, I am a swoopvierter. And and how can we, you have to find this on the map, because, you know, borders, I think this is very naive if people say, oh, no borders, no borders. We all have borders. We have our limits in mind. We have our physical borders, which is our skin. If well, here in the Zoom meeting, I cannot go too much near to you. I can kind of try to go too near to the to the camera, but if you approach too much to somebody, near to somebody, then this person will step automatically backwards, because you have this invisible kind of area which surrounds you, and only a lover may enter this area. So borders are something that are important for us. So I thought, okay, I will build a wall now to define the borders of Swoopvirt. And here you can see the first piece of the wall, which was built in 2004, the Swoopvirt city wall in the district of Swoop, on the Polish side of Swoopvirt. You see in spring, the wall has always been cleaned, so everybody can feel glad. Families can sit on it, make a picnic, and so on. And finally, I built 30 meters of wall in Swoop and 30 meters of wall in the triangle where meets Poland, Germany, and Kaufland. Is the second piece of wall. I don't think I placed it here. One piece of wall is enough for you to see. But you open the brackets, you say Swoopvirt, and you close the brackets. The next point are the street names. You know that narrations of street names are important. I don't know who are your biggest heroes in Moldavia, which you find in every town a street name of, but I think there is no town in Germany which does not have a Goethe Street, a Schiller Street, and so on, or some ideological streets which define socialism, and so on, or politicians, scientists who get instrumentalized. I think in Germany you would not find a street, for example, an Adam Mickiewicz Street, because he is seen as a Polish hero and not as a German hero, even though he was born in a time where people did not even think about national state. The idea of the national state is always to take something, to instrumentalize an artist or a writer and so on, to use it to make people feel greater. So if a German person can say, I am from the Germany, Goethe, so I have got somehow Goethe's ghost, Goethe's spirit inside of me, which makes me directly feel better. Yeah, so it is about feeling better. identity is always something about feeling better, as I told in the beginning with the mirror. Yeah. So street names are important, and the street which is going over the bridge, across the bridge, I renamed in Swupfurter Straße ulica Swupfurska. The next thing is how to spread the message of our town. So this is the mobile Swupfurt tourist information. Of course, I also printed a book, a tourist guide to Swupfurt. And then I was traveling, this was in Berlin, but I also was in very different cities all over Europe, and spreading the information of Swupfurt, selling very good red wine, which only grows in the microclimate of Swupfurt, for example. And of course, lots of postcards, as you can see, so that people can send postcards to their relatives. What you see here is the former border controls between Słubice and Frankfurt. In 2008, I think, yeah, in 2008, we made a big project together with 50 students when we redefined the border control as the town hall of Swupfurt. And we made the Olympic Games of Swupfurt against Gubien. In 2008, the main Olympic Games did not take part in China, in Beijing. They took part here in Swupfurt, in the stadium, which is under the bridge. And here you can see the entrance to the town hall. Inside we had a so-called an examination. You had to fill out a form to prove that you are really a good Swupfurter, where there was a test of Swupfurtish language. As you saw in the hymn yet, ne? In Swupfurt sprechamy in beiden języków gleichzeitig und skakamy von der einen Sprache in die drugie język. So this was just a test of if you understand Swupfurtish. And of course, there I started yet with the identity cards, because you know identity cards are important. If you can prove here I am really a Swupfurter, you can believe me, this is the proof. Yeah. So here you can see also my two students, and you see also the press is always there directly to inform the world about Swupfurt. Here you can see a typical identity card of a Swupfurter. And yes, and then the next thing is you can see here a very interesting thing that any national state is using. Last year, I got from the president of Germany the so-called Bundesverdienstkreuz. There's a cross for doing something good. Yeah, I got it for Swupfurt in Nova America. So up there on the left, you see the president giving me this cross. And of course, Swupfurt only exists because of all the people who are creating Swupfurt. So I passed further this cross to all the different Swupfurters. You always see first the president with me, then me with Thorsten Krüger. He was long time very strongly working for Swupfurt. Then he was passing it to Heidi Pech. Then Heidi Pech to Krzysztof Wojciechowski, and so on and so on. You see how this cross was going from one person to the next one. Later, I heard that this is not allowed to do that, but I think artists are allowed to do everything. Yeah, but you see, this works very strongly. You see the president, this flag very seriously, and then they were playing the hymn, and then this was a very formal kind of act, which instrumentalized also the people who get this, yeah. Because it makes the state kind of bigger, yeah. Yeah, here you can see again, you can see the Olympic Games, yeah, in the stadium of Swupfurt, Gubien against Swupfurt. And you know that if one person with a flag on its breast is running around and winning, then a whole nation is proud. Everybody is sitting in their in front of the television drinking beer suddenly feels much better. Yeah. So here we were playing against the Gubianers and we won 3-1, and I felt it myself how strong was my feeling to be a Swoopferter at this moment. Yeah, we also had very traditional sports disciplines, like here to kick the golf ball across the Oder River, for example, and the much more traditional to throw packages, to throw cigarettes from the bridge on the promenade. And the customs, they had built these constructions for us because formerly, you know, people were smuggling cigarettes across the bridge, throwing them on the promenade. And so our challenge was to throw the cigarettes across this construction. And there, unfortunately, a guy from Swoopford, from Gubian, was winning. Here you see the sports teams that are preparing. And then Pu, one of my students, he was going to Beijing, and you can see the stadium is nearly empty because everybody was in Swoopford. And you can see also I don't know if you can see this well, the logo of our Olympic Games were 4 eggs and an apple. Okay, so then we finally we've strengthened the feeling of identity of the Swoopferters, but now the Swoopferters were nearly starting a revolution because they said, well, now we identify with, but you should allow us to create Swoopford also. So we made the first elections, political elections in Swoopford. Some students who were studying law, they created the constitutional law of Swoopford, and the election, I don't know how to say it, the rules for the elections, which says that almost 2 Swoobers and 2 Furters have to come together to create a party. So we solved this through a big speed dating where everybody found their partners, and then we had 6 parties coming out of it. Here you see the Swoopford Polyglot Party, where you have to speak almost 6 languages to be a member of the party. And here you see also under the bridge was the election campaign. You see people from all the different parties. And we had a friend of mine, she is an actor from Poznan. She made a workshop into rhetoric skills for everybody. And then everybody was holding a speech on this stage about why they should be elected. Yeah. On the left, you see the party. I don't know if you can see this, my cursor. These 2 girls here, they were from the party Polymaluche Polyminis, which is a party where you are not allowed to be older than 16 years. And they are at long time kicked out of this party because they're too old. Yeah, okay, I will not bore you with the election results. Very complicated to count this, yeah. Because each party got 2 places in the parliament. And then you can see the first parliament meeting under the bridge. Yeah, and this was in 2009. And the parliament still exists today, only it has changed. We have no more parties. Now it is working like this, that when we have a parliament meeting, we announce it publicly, and everybody who comes automatically is a parliamentarian and has got a voice. So when we have topics that we want to discuss about, we make these meetings, and then people come and can discuss and have a vote for deciding in which direction should we develop. So this was a very good tool we implemented, that it is since 12 years working very well. Here you can see the Swoopford newspaper, Of course, every town has got to have its own newspaper. It is a very special newspaper. It is the first daily newspaper which is not appearing daily. It appears once a year. And it's bilingual, Polish and German, so you couldn't read it anyway. But the title is Profil in Polish, Profil, in English, Profile. No? And then the next step was, of course, to create our own currency. Because here we still have, you know, there's the euro on the post-German side and the zloty on the post-German, on the post-Polish side. So you always have to change money. With this money, you don't have to change anymore. It is a time bank, Zeitbank czasu. You can see 1 studzina, Stunde in German language, godzina in Polish language, studzina in Słowfurtish language, means 1 hour of energy. And then you have another coin, I don't know, I cannot see it very well, on the corner up there on the right, you see 15 Minuten, which is of course 15 minutes. And now we can start changing. I can cut your hair, and therefore you can mold my grass or something. We can start exchanging. Yes, so this part, what you saw now, is the biggest part here is the artistic game. Yeah, and I think we need humor, we need anarchy, and we need lots of people who are inspired by something, because many of those ideas that you saw, they were not my ideas. For example, to throw the cigarettes from the bridge, this was another person who had this idea. Yeah, and therefore we still have to continue stronger to get inside the real space and to change this, well, I say real space, let's say the parallel world, and to change it that really more people start to believe in Słowfurt, and that we develop a kind of rooted bottom-up democracy, which is created by the people themselves. So we started to enact places in town. And right beside the bridge, there was an empty area. Nothing was built there. We decided to overtake it, and we named it Platz Mostowe, Brückenplatz, which means the bridge square. Here you can see our first bridge square. And also through the meeting of the Słowfurt Parliament, we developed the ideas for what should happen there. And the bridge square now started in 2012, and now we are 2020, so it's 8 years old. And first we were until 2015 in this area right beside the bridge, and in August we had to leave 2015 because they wanted to build a big shopping mall there. So we had to leave, and we found a new place which the city gave us, which is a former sports hall from an old school and the area around. For us it was even much better, and it is near the town hall, between the town hall of Frankfurt and the Oder River. And now you see the banner of the parliament. This is now our new town hall. We have the parliament meetings there. And down there you see our first meetings where we started to redevelop what we want to do in the second place. And here is our signpost. And you can see it is written not only anymore in Polish and German, it is written in very different languages. And the most important rule is that this is an open space, and everybody may feel free, maybe feel at home, and bring his own ideas and try to realize these ideas. And so here you have some impressions. Since 2014, we have lots of new citizens coming to Słowfurt. from very different regions of the world. We have lots of Cameroonians, Somalians, Syrians, from Iraq, from Iran, from Afghanistan, people from all over the world coming to us. In the parallel world, they are refugees and they have no status at all. In our place, they directly get the Nova America identity card and are part of our society and have got, of course, a voice in the Swoopford Parliament. So we have different projects which grew up out of this, made by the people's ideas which they brought. This is outside in our garden area. We have barbecues, you know, we have parties, of course, people like to make parties, but we also have, for example, the Afghan people, they have no place for prayer, and they are making their Muharram, their Holy Week, inside of our sports hall. Of course, they have to respect the rule that the place is open for everybody. So anybody can also come in, of course, in respect, and can look watch what they are doing. And of course, when they stop praying, then others can come in and do other things there. We have workshops, dancing workshops here. For example, Bijou, she's a very good dancing teacher and choreographer. She's making lots of workshops in our sports hall of African dance. We have got different kinds of workshops here. People, new citizens coming here, they, in our sports hall, they can start building the new house here. We have got a repair cafe, which means that everybody who has got something broken can come. And on the left side, the guy you see, that is Richard. He had the idea for the repair cafe, but there are also others who know how to repair bikes, for example. And lots of refugees have no bikes. They are in these refugee houses, and to take the public traffic is too expensive. For them, a bike is important. So we take old bikes from people that they don't need anymore. We repair them, and then refugees can get them, for example. When the lockdown came in March, we decided we will not close our place. We stopped playing football there. We stopped playing all these things that cannot be done during Corona. But there was a group of 9 women who said, but we are sewing and we would like to sew masks for everybody. So we started sewing masks for people who had no masks. And in the beginning, there was a lack of masks in the city. So where there were huge queues of people who came, lots of them for the first time to our place, and said, oh, wow, what are you doing here? It's great. And then they got these masks, and our branding is that all the textile which we are making the masks with are from African textile. And another idea was from Małgorzata Murao. She had the idea to make a free shop. A free shop means everybody can bring something which is still good that they do not use anymore, and they can leave it there, and others can come and take it. And of course, if they like, they can give a donation, but this is not necessary. And since Corona, we had 2 smaller rooms for these 2 initiatives, Repair Cafe and Free Shop, but now they are filling nearly the whole sports hall because there's such a strong need for that. And this is our garden. We are making garden claiming. So everybody who wants to get a claim here in Nova America in our garden can get it from 1 square meter to 10 or more. And here you can see these gardens here. This is from Musama and Muhammad Ali. They are both from Afghanistan, and they are farmers from there. And they were so happy, so glad that here they could continue farming a little bit. They have very wonderful vegetables right now. And of course, it is also our meeting place, this garden where we are making parties. And this is right now our last project that we are doing right now. It was a kind of, we call it scenischer Parcours, an art installation mixed with a theater event. So you can see this labyrinth here, and people could enter this labyrinth, had to follow the signs which we were making on the ground. Nobody could sit down. They were acting in the idea of this Corona rules. Nobody would sit down, but we were making theater on these constructions up that you can see. We could, this way we were able to make a theater piece together with 10 refugees. Not only refugees, the main people who engage in our place, they are refugees, for example, from Afghanistan, from Cameroon, from Iran, because lots of them, they do not get asylum. They are tolerated, they are not sent back, but they are not allowed to work and so on. So they found a place here where they can feel well, where they are part of the society. And the same, it concerns long-term unemployed people. We have got now lots of unemployed people who are happy to join us, to be with us, because they need sense in life. And as the society is marginalizing them, we are telling, no, here you are part of us, you can be with us. And our biggest success was is a woman. She is 25 years yet unemployed. She was voting for the neo-Nazi parties, and now she is big friend with Bijou, with Charlotte, with different people from Cameroon and so on, and she cannot imagine how she could have voted these fascist parties. So I think we are touching also a problem of when we later might talk about the stadium. Talk about the youth, the young people, which have also fallen out of the system, is the question, can we build a place where we can reconstruct democracy as an NGO or rooted from bottom up initiative, where people can not only vote every 4 years, but take part in creating reality. So this was our summer parliament. Just a second. Another parliament meeting, and another place where we were looking for a new place, because in this area where we are right now, they want to kick us out again. They want to build a big hotel, and we are fighting on the one hand, and we are looking for a new space on the other hand. Yeah, and then we have one thing which is very important, that everybody who is doing something there regularly is getting a key to the building. So we have right now 36 key owners. They all get our trust, and they get responsibility getting the key. And we have an online calendar called Team Up. You can find this in the internet, where every key owners get the administrator access. So everything that is going on there is going through this calendar, and is creating itself the program in a way. Yeah. And this is really now our base. Also, our basic are these people who are part of this community, who have the key themselves. They can come at any time of the day. They know that they should respect, of course, that the toilets are proper and so on. Not always this is working good, but we have a rule that every key owner comes once a month to our key owner meeting, where we are developing ideas, speaking about problems, and so on and so on. Yeah, and this is just to finish in a way, our vision for the future. The Oder River is not dividing anymore because we are canalizing it under the earth, where is growing up the new town of Zwoepfert. And and Zwoepfert as the capital of Nova America is constantly growing. Berlin and Poznan are shrinking cities. And here's the proof that Zwoepfert exists. This post is in the Antarctic. A friend of mine from Swobice, he's working in the scientists commission, which is working there in the Antarctic. So this is not a fiction. This is a really post which says that Zwoepfert is 14,186 kilometers from there. And this is one thing that I propose. Shape your reality or it shapes you. It means, with other words, we could also say, I don't know if you know Buckminster Fuller, he said, the best way to predict the future is to invent it. Instead of fighting against something, it takes a lot of energy. It takes maybe less energy to create something. Yes, thank you very much for listening. And maybe you still have some questions, or you are so tired. I was speaking much longer than predicted.
I'm interested a bit on how, I mean, of course, with the last project, because you had this community and you kind of not build it, but it grew. But also on the nothing part and the other project, I'm curious, how do you manage to engage people? Because with the first project that you talked about, I thought it's amazing because your artwork, it just lives by itself and it's taken by other people somehow further. And also this last project is really, really amazing with support. But I'm curious, like, how do you begin and how do you manage to gather these people around and get them interested? Of course, with support, I think it's interesting because you actually managed to satisfy a very important need.
Yeah, one thing is that Zwoepfert this year is 21 years old. It is a long-term project. It is not something that you just do and do it for placing in a gallery or something. It is something that it's a kind of sustainable project in a way. And first, I did not think about working 21 years of it, but it was kind of growing, one project after the other, developing. Then there were coming new people. Then there was a new challenge. And you can see also that it is going along different political problems that are appearing and kind of working with that. First it started really as a mainly Polish-German project, because I felt that I had this feeling that why I'm here, and on the Polish and on the German side, the people, there are so many stereotypes. There is such a lot of negative energy towards each other. And my project says, we are all Zwoepferters and we are all together. And there's always a bunch of people who believes that this is a good thing. And most of the people who are taking part in it, they are not really interested in the, let's say, the artistic idea. Mm-hmm. They are interested of cooperating, of learning language together, and so on. So there are lots of small projects that I made, which I did not talk about yet now. That, for example, within the Nova America University, we made a whole bunch of language projects. We invited teachers from the whole border region, from the Polish and German side, to exchange their ideas of new technologies of building language lessons, for example. So there are very basic things which are happening within this. And it was growing first as a Polish-German project. And of course, I'm talking about 21 years. There are people who were there taking part during 2 years, and then there were others coming. Some people went away and new people came. It is still changing all the time. And the only problem is right now that still it is me who is the constant one who's all the time there. And I should kind of manage to get to this point that I one day can give it and others will continue. For example, in 2014, there were lots of refugees coming. And me personally, I was so glad that our town became alive and that I finally could speak French again because I was living 3 years in France, but here, I could speak Polish, but living in another country, speaking another language, learning it, speaking 3 years, becomes part of your soul. And I was so much missing to speak French. And I was so glad then when I meet the Cameroonian people, because they are mainly Francophone, there are some Anglophones too. So I could now every day speak French again. And then there was a friend of mine, he's a language teacher. He was living 5 years in Kazakhstan. And when he was teaching German there, he was using choir. He was singing with the people, using it as a tool to learn German. And he told me about it. And then I asked him, listen, what do you think about going into the refugees' home and asking the people to sing together? Because it is difficult to go there and to say to people, hey, we want to do something with you, but to say, let's sing together. You are bored there, maybe we would like to sing together. And we were singing there in the refugees' home. We got one space, they had one kind of common space. And then we were starting to collecting the songs from Eritrea, from Somalia, from Cameroon, from Syria, and so on. Each cultural group could propose a song, and then together we sang these songs on the Christmas market in the center. And as it was totally new, we were asked to sing in schools in very different places. But of course, none of us had the idea that we want to create a professional choir. So when we got to know each other more, we started to do other things. We went together to make a party, to a picnic, to travel somewhere, and so on. And I invited them, of course, to the Brückenplatz to take part in it, to the Repair Cafe. And we had the two first Cameroonians, Cyprien and Freddy. They needed church asylum, because within Dublin 3, I don't know if you know this law, but that means that you have to apply for asylum in the first European country that you reach. So most of, for example, Cameroonians, they would have to apply in Spain or in Italy for asylum. And so they were meant to be sent back. And I was searching a lawyer, and I found Mr. Bollman, a lawyer which at that time was 79 years old, but he did not yet cancel his advocate's his office.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, okay, I don't need any money. I have got my rent, so I will defend them for free. And he started defending them. We found church asylum from them and so on. Both of them now, they have finished a formation as electricians. Cyprien has his girlfriend, they have children together. He has got, he can stay yet here for sure. And Freddy also, he was so good in his formation that the company employed him. So we still have the structure also in helping. The lawyer is there, which is now 84 years old. And Nassim, she's Canadian with Iranian roots, speaks very good French. She speaks Farsi, the language of Iran. She's learning here. She just made her master in human rights. So she is assisting him, and we build up a whole structure where we not only tell them, oh, come to the party or something, but where they can come once a week. They get consultation in rights, what to do. And we have a whole structure of helping. So if somebody needs to go to the doctor, for example, Joel, yesterday, I went with him to the doctor because he cannot still speak German so well. So we build up a whole structure where we help in real life. Yeah. I don't know if this helps you to understand.
Yeah,
I think if we speak about the stadium, it is also about the neighbors of the stadium. And I think it is also about looking what are the social structures, and besides of wanting to create a space for direct democracy, it is also about direct social help, about creating a kind of community. And it is sure it is not it will be maybe also a project which you will do 20 years.
Definitely.
I cannot hear you, Vladimir. Your microphone. Ah, okay, it's not to us.
Probably not.
Yes, it's a technical issue here. If we speak, it multiplies suddenly the voice. Thank you, Michael. Very inspiring. I'm glad to hear it second time, and it still inspires with the same force for this presentation. And I don't really have questions, but rather maybe some remarks which can connect issues here and there. And yeah, one of the questions actually Ioana just asked, it's what kind of resources do you need to make it possible? And of course, human resources is one of the main resources, I believe, in such projects. When we try to develop either a space or an activity, I mean, or a house, and how to keep the house running for many years. I think it's like a vital question to answer, to find answer to make things work in a longer run. But then the other comment is related to one of the questions we have here, Republic of Moldova being shaped by many borders around along the historical periods and so on. And the question is how to turn a border line into a border zone. But again, your presentation answers to this question in an interesting way. You point out, for example, one way to create a zone in a border line, on a borderline which separates, create a zone is to provide a safer space for refugees or to provide a place for unemployed people. And this is what turns a borderline into a zone, basically. And those who are in need see in it not a separator, but something that can respond to their needs. And then it takes us, I think, also to this question of collectivity and how to reinvent it, especially in our area where a collectivity was a forced way to put people together, like forced collectivity. And then you basically bring other examples how to build collectivity around some interests or around some needs. And this is like opening an entire discussion, I think, what can connect us with refugees from somewhere else, completely different part of the world. But maybe I still have kind of question, like if you can evaluate somehow the impact of your project, of this, especially when it is a long-term project. I believe a lot of city administrations changed in the meantime while Sloopfort was developing. So actually survived many of these political transformations. Like how to evaluate the impact of such a project in relation to politics, or maybe from social perspective or economic perspective. I don't know. Do you have any criteria which sort of guide you in which direction to take next, or which is more sort of promising and bringing better results? Thank you.
Lots of comments and questions you made at the time. One thing, maybe the first thing that I remember is how to make these things come real, or how to gather the financial structure to do this. Swoopford is an association too. The first thing I did was to create an association together with the first 9 people who were entering this association. And this association gives us the possibility to write applications for different programs. And as we are on the border side, we can use programs from both sides. There's the Euro region, the so-called, there's European money. There's Deutsch-Polnische Gesellschaft, the Polish-German society. There are very different fundings that you can apply for. Each of them has different structures or different kinds of, let's say, poetics that you have to fulfill. For example, the Polish-German Stiftung für Deutsch-Polnische Zusammenarbeit, the Foundation for Polish-German Cooperation, their principle is the Polish-German cooperation. Yeah. So if you write an application there, this is what they want to hear. The Euro region, the Euro region, they also want to have Polish-German cooperation, but they want to hear more that these are meetings. Then there is the Bundeszentrale für politische Bildung, which is the federal federal foundation, let's say, for political education. They want to hear that you are doing something about political education. Fonds Soziokultur means that they want to hear something about social culture. Everybody has different, let's say, different kinds of boxes that you have to fit into, but Swoopford is a whole town. So Swoopford involves all topics in a time. So it can concern social, it can concern art, it can concern political education. For example, for the Swoopford Parliament, we got the Bundespreis für politische Bildung. We got a big prize from the German government for political education, which was 15,000 euro. And this 15,000 euro we could use the way we wanted it. And mainly you have to have your own money if you apply somewhere, so we could use it as our own money. So all these things help, and it started building up from very small projects. Of course, you have to get the trust of the founders, of the people who give you the money. So when you start with small projects, after a while they see that this is working well, then maybe they give you more money, or you can yet prove that you have yet made projects with these people, these and that and those. So your resume is kind of growing towards these sponsors. And yeah, this is the path. We have until now nobody employed. It is from project to project. And now the first time, this last, until next year, we have a 3 years project for the Brückenplatz. Before I was applying again, every year, again and again, not knowing if it can continue or not. And between 2015 and 16, there was a little gap, for example. Yeah, so, and then this is a challenge. How can you keep the people meeting alive, even though you have right now no fundings? Of course, this means that you don't only work when you get money, but you also work when you don't have money. It is, you need passion. And but if you have this passion, I think you also can get to the point that you can live from it, because I decided I have to do it that way, because otherwise I would have to do something else to live from. And I wanted to decide to go my path. And so sometimes I had very few money, but somehow I always got through it. And this is, let's say, my luxury, that I'm able to do what I like to do, and that I have no boss telling me what I have to do. The second point was the border zone. Yeah, when I started in 1999, this was still the outer border of the European Union. There were still queues at the border. There were the border controls and everything. It was much more difficult. People told me, what you're doing, this is too much a utopia. This will never come true, and so on. And then in 2004, Poland entered the European Union, as far as I remember. Then it changed yet, and then there were only yet the custom controls. And when Poland entered the Schengen contract, then the border became useless in a way, and there were no more controls. So, of course, this helped for some projects. Now people cannot imagine anymore how it was in 1999, that there was still this border, and that it was much more complicated to cross it. I could tell many funny stories about that border controls. So the border zone, of course, was possible also because of the political developments of Poland entering into the European Union. I don't know how it is between Moldavia and Romania, for example. Moldavia is not yet member of the European Union, so there is a hard border, I believe. Yeah, and to the other countries too. Or is there one border which is a soft border? Okay. Yeah, and the third point I remember was what you said about evaluation. Yeah, I'm evaluating every project after making the project, because I have to make an evaluation for the sponsor, for the foundation who gave the money, for example. So I'm evaluating regularly, but I would wish somehow to make a book or to make a bigger installation, to kind of have a kind of retrospective of all these things that happened, because maybe this also could help for the next steps that are going on. But on the other side, the next steps, they're kind of coming themselves all the time. I'm not running for topics. The topics, they come to me all the time, or to us. And how can I explain that? So it is, I was thinking that it should be a time now to make a retrospective, but on the other side, it's still going forward and forward. Only I feel that I'm a little bit getting older. I feel that I have not got the same strong energy as I had until now. So for me, it would be very interesting if I can find a way that these things also can continue without my presence. And this is maybe the last big challenge to do before retiring. But on the other hand, I don't believe I will retire, but that I have not to push that much power as I'm pushing right now. Yeah? I don't know if this is an answer. Evaluation is in a process is very difficult, because evaluation kind of implements that you have finished something really, and I still have not the feeling that I have finished something. Right now, you see, the big new project is to develop Nova America towards the whole border regions of Europe. And for example, I was yet 3 times in Cluj-Napoca. In Romania, we have got a Nova America embassy there. So hopefully we will have an embassy in Chișinău as well soon. And maybe we will develop something together. Who knows? I'm always open to this because I think networking is a power. Often people think that that you have to pay attention, that somebody takes something from you, but in fact this is not like this. It is when you come together, your energies, you have new ideas that I do not have, I have new ideas that you do not have, and we start developing something new that we even do not know yet. So I think networking is something very important, and Nova America is a spirit, is a state of mind. It is not linked to one geographical area. It can be linked also to the stadium, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe the last point that
there is one question from Maxim.
Okay.
Well, again, thank you very much for your presentation. And I have very pragmatical East European question about the stadium and about the gym. What are the conditions to use them? Do you rent it or you have it for free from City Hall? Or, I mean, this practical thing.
Yeah, the practical. There's a noise.
This is
Okay. Yeah, and now you leave us. Again, can you repeat again? I just got the practical.
It's about the conditions to use the gym and the stadium.
Ah, okay.
Is it for free or you renting it or you are the owner? This is the question.
No, we are not the owner. We started in 2012 with the first place right beside the bridge. And there was the problem that the city said this place is so dirty because people are crossing it. It is not used, and people were crossing, I don't know, across just like this to have a shortcut to the bridge. And then they were throwing their rubbish everywhere. So the city council asked some architects and urban planners, and also some people like me, like artists, invited to a workshop to think about what to do with this area. And then I proposed not to implement something ready-made there, but to use the Swupford Parliament to ask the people who live in town what they would like to do there. And first they said, no, we cannot do that. This will be anarchy, this will be chaos. And there were 3 beautiful architectonical plans what should be there. But finally the city, because Frankfurt is a quite poor city, they found out that that they do not have the money to realize these plans. And also the city council, the employed people were there. They were also not ready to do something like we do, to find the people and so on, because their institutions, they are very stiff in their behavior. So finally they said, let's Swupford do it, so we can push away our responsibility. This was the logic in their mind. And this, in a way, helped us. So they agreed that we do that procedure, that we experiment this, and then we will see what will come out. And then we got a prize from the local government from Brandenburg for participatorial projects. Also 10,000 euro or something like that, which we could invest directly into that project. And also it gave them trust. Then they saw, oh, they got this prize and so on. So we could continue. But it was a so-called Zwischennutzung, which means a kind of interim use of this area. We did not have to pay for it. There was the local government was involved. From the city council, from the urban planning office, there were people inside of our working group. And so we could kind of develop it with their help. And this was our first step. And we made this from 2012 to 15. We finished with a big project cooperating with container art in Poznań and Poznań in Poland, and with Hyde Park in Nitra in Slovakia. And we made a project that a triangle of these three places. Each of us were totally different, but we said that from each place we have three music bands that will make a tournée through all three places. And one condition was that these bands are totally unknown. And also three workshops, which were also traveling around. And this helped us. We had this 9 concerts and 9 workshops and so on. Then we had to finish. And then was the question, what now? And then the city council said, okay, this is really very interesting what you do. So we help you getting a new place. And that's how finally we got this other place with this sports hall. And there we only pay, we do not pay for the building, but we do pay 500 euros per month for water and so on. The only negative thing is they cut the heating, because heating would cost almost 1,000 euro a month only with, you know, this big sports hall. Officially, we are not heating there, but unofficially, you know, these gas things that they have in restaurants outside to heat there. We use this in winter. We have meetings. We have 6 of these heaters, and then we place them that at this area we can sit and do something, and this somehow works. And we have this within another project. So the city gives these 500 euro per month, which makes 6,000 a year. And right now there is a so-called Plattform für kulturelle Bildung, platform for cultural education from the land of Brandenburg. They added to these 6,000 from the city, 24,000 from them. And with these 24,000 and these 6,000, we run the project the whole year. And additionally, then this helps us to get the next fundings for other things that we do there. So it is a complex, very complex thing that is growing that way. But first we had to find the confidence of the local government that they said, okay, this is good what they are doing. And now they also want to help us to find a new space if they really build this hotel there. I am against the hotel because here we are in the very center, and I very much believe that we really need this agora, this central place where we can kind of discuss democracy, and not discuss, we can live it, and not only virtually in social media, but in real life. And I think this is very important for local democracy. And therefore I will fight for it, that we can stay there, but I'm not sure if we can manage this. Maybe we will have to leave. We will have the funding till the end of the next year, and maybe then the whole project will finish because we will have no more money. So there's always a kind of uncertainty that you have to work with. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Michael. It's really, it's like I have more questions to ask, but I think it's too late for us already.
Maybe
we had a very long day.
Tomorrow we have this workshop, and we're talking. You remember about it that your homework for tomorrow would be to gather some ideas that tomorrow maybe you present your ideas that you have, and then we will continue discussing anyway. But maybe now it is good to switch to your project and to work on your project, and I can kind of assist to it. I would see it as an assistance right now because I will not run your project. You will run it yourself. But maybe my experience you can use it, and maybe you also will inspire me. I don't know. I found it amazing that you have a white zone in the very center of Chișinău, and I'm interested which direction this project can take.
Yes. We leave it for tomorrow. That's the idea.
That's fine.
And we will meet again at 5 o'clock Chișinău time, and we will share those ideas with you and Constanța, and see where it takes us next. Also, Ioannis, and if there are more participants, Roxandra, online, maybe you can send your ideas, or if you manage to attend the walk at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's also available on the Facebook. You can see the place. Mm-hmm. And if you have any related examples to your cities, maybe you could also share strategies of dealing with those kind of abandoned public spaces and the possibility to include them back in the circuit. But I believe there were enough examples. How can we do it that we heard today? So any of these would be interesting to discuss, and maybe relate to the context a little bit more, to the local realities from our cities. So yeah, thank you all for such a long day, Constanța, Michael, and the participants and publics, and see you tomorrow at 5. Yes, Michael?
That I will invite again to Zoom.
Just a second.
I would invite again to the Zoom meeting, because I think that is stable enough. Yeah. So you can spread this invitation then. Okay.
Wonderful.
Fine. So have a nice evening.
Thank you so much. You too.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye.